My friend
Everyone,
Shelly.
I'm Shelly, and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm finally back with another homeschooling one on one video in which I'm going to be answering some of your questions.
Yes, the mug is totally includes your. It's the winning design test print.
I know it's been a long time since I've gotten around to this. I've been super busy, and on top of that, I've been making more question the narrative videos lately. But since I did start this as a homeschooling channel, I do want to keep adding homeschooling content.
Which is insane, really, isn't it?
And
Because like the crossover between talking fucking bunkum on YouTube and homeschooling your kids must be pretty small niche. Like there will be some people who really believe in the bunkum. I mean, maybe they're more committed to teaching their kids stuff at home, but you would think that the average homeschooler would be interested in like science, maths, geography, and all, learning about stuff and teaching it to the kids. And then here comes you saying, forget all that, scrap that. That's what they want you to teach your kids. That's the narrative. If you want, you can just do whatever the fuck you want. And I'm here to tell you how. Maybe you are quite appealing in some ways. I don't know.
okay, so the first question is, how do you choose curriculum? How I choose curriculum now is very different from how I chose curriculum when I first started.
So are you saying that one kid's getting it better than the other? Like, education moved on in your house since the one kid was born. The oldest kid got the shit education, and the youngest kid gets the best education in theory because you're getting better, or have you changed it just to make it worse or easier, or what's? I'm confused.
When I first started home,
I mean, it would be true to say that if you had a family of say 5 kids, kid A's education would be different from kid B, C, D, E, kid E's education, but not markedly, not dramatically in the lifespan of like, a few, like in not even a generational necessarily lifespan, like maybe semi-generational you'd call it. I don't know.
homeschooling, I actually just searched homeschool curriculum. But I can't say
Oh
that
my
that
god.
really ended up badly because that is how I found Konos, which I still use to this day.
Good. You just searched on the internet homeschool curriculum and you got started. Wow. But that's the narrative.
I also, in the beginning, or maybe in the middle years of my homeschooling, I have been doing it for 15 years now. In the middle years, I also found a lot of curriculum on blogs. I would wake up every morning and I had some specific blogs that I would read every single morning.
And then just teach to the kids. So when you say found curriculum, do you understand that curriculum is something that before the school season starts, you outlay what you want to teach, how long it's going to take to teach, you create lesson plans for the teaching of it, and then you put it into a format, like, the reason that you have your different lessons on your different, the structure we're talking about, Shelly, and you have your little lesson planner so that it's easier for the children to learn with the variety of different lessons, the different things you're going to have to do. But you've planned it out from start to finish for like the whole school year, so to speak, and then you go ahead and teach it. Like the formation of the curriculum itself is quite a job. So you don't just go on the internet and just pick one, do you? Or do you? Is that the way? I mean,
So I always took their opinion very seriously, and a lot of it ended up working out for me. A lot of it ended up
so I would say, I would argue if you do want to do a good homeschool, then you would probably want to go to somebody with a reputable curriculum and borrow theirs. Like, you wouldn't have to learn all the stuff yourself. You would still have to impart the knowledge, but you might not, you might be able to get away with tomorrow's lesson plan is, let's just look over this and make sure I can teach it to the kids. I'm hoping I'm not going to come across any concepts that I'm going to find difficult to learn myself the night before, but you could potentially do it like that, because someone else has already done all the work of putting together the curriculum, but you're going to have to trust them and not question the narrative because the curriculum is already laid out for you. So it's someone you trust laying out a curriculum that you have faith in. So a bit like science is like a religion to some people. Like, people trust the curriculum, don't they? And the reason we should trust the curriculum in our societies, and we should hope to, and I may be saying that, you could question this narrative, but is that the curriculum is made up by a government that is made up by the people and for the people and of their wishes. So the more the government is not corrupt and is actually by and for the people, the more people like the education minister, coupled with, teams of education professionals, high-end people, can put together quality curricula. But there might and it's also a sort of not just a one fits all policy, but we're talking about, when you're talking about governance and nations, you're talking about a vast population, a lot of people. So there's some stability in that, isn't there? The curriculum does need to sort of one size fits all. It needs to be appropriate for, like, you might say, I believe that it need. Well, I went to a grammar school, so maybe my perspective is slightly skewed. But I think that. Big up to me and Green. Thank you for the tier sub. I think the curriculum, in the main, from what I experienced of it, was there to teach me to be a critical thinker by giving me all the tools to do so, and then handing me on to a bigger establishment, hopefully university, that could utilise all those tools to the best advantage for the betterment of the knowledge base, and also me by getting my knowledge and my degree and stuff. To streak, you must take your clothes off. No one needs to. But yeah, so choosing the curriculum is really important. And if you're the problem here is that she's saying you've got to question the narrative. And the whole point of what she does is that she doesn't follow blindly these other ideas, and that she's got her own ideas. But the truth is, she blindly follows the ideas in the Bible. She blindly follows the ideas of these other curriculum because she doesn't understand it and needed it as a prop for her homeschooling. And she might not do that now and might have changed, but it's weird, isn't it, to say that there are curriculums out there that are good and I just bought them off the internet, and the ones that are ascribed by our society in general to be most appropriate for the nation at the time, which do change over time, we're not going to use that. We're not going to do that. And away with the socialization too.
Not working out for me, but blogs were another place. I didn't really watch homeschool reviews on YouTube. I was more of someone who just...
how on earth did you even have the time with loads of kids and not just all the same responsibilities and burdens that normal parents have? Not that children are a burden, but you know what I mean. Things to do. Not just that, but the added problem of homeschooling. How did you have the time to even watch a YouTube video? I'm surprised. I'm surprised you have free time to, once the children have gone to bed, I'm sure the real work starts, doesn't it?
Read blogs. I also got word of mouth, just from other homeschool moms that I happened to meet.
People said stuff to you and you just did what they said.
Now, though, in my 15th year, I kind of just know what it is that my children want. And
knowing what they want is different from being a good educator, isn't it?
I know specifically what I'm looking for. So I will actually search the specific things that I'm looking for. To be quite honest with you, we've been doing this for so long that we have, we found our groove, we found our niche, and we know specifically what it is that works. And so at this point in time, we're just using mainly the same things every year, because if it's working, we're just going to keep using it.
How do you know if it's working?
I think even more important than how you choose your curriculum is that you allow yourself to stop using a curriculum if it's not working for you, though. That is super important. I know that it can be a huge investment of money, which is a reason that I never really went.
An investment of money, did she say? So you have to buy these things off the internet. So you're rejecting what society provides you through your tax money, which is already a huge investment of money. And instead you're going out and privately funding somebody else to do that same job, someone that has now private interests, their own personal private interests and the interests of the economy, first and foremost the economy, to teach these kids things at home. People are going to say, well, if the government set the agenda, then they're just going to make you into a drone so that you can go and work a job and be good for the economy. There's that. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Teach these people. Teacher, leave those kids alone. I get it. But we have to be on guard as a society to make sure that's not the case, don't we? And to hold education to high standards, because we're the people that are sending our kids to those schools and voting in those politicians. And so yeah, that's the whole system. I get our system. That makes sense. The idea that you should go online and pay privately. This is private education as well. When you send your kids to a posh school as well, private education. The fact that you should go private, either when you send them to the posh school, it's because you think they're getting a better education than the government provides. It's something better, and that's worth paying the monies for, because they're going to get to go to even better universities and be friends with all the people that have the good jobs already, because their dads are already doctors and lawyers and this and that, and sorry, their mums too these days. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's that elitism thing. But you're saying you go like on the internet and you buy somebody's idea of what to teach your kids, and the motivation behind them selling it to you is that they're going to sell you the idea that it's good. And how do you know it's good? Because you're not that educated yourself. Well, you're going to have to take it either on faith or trust or word of mouth, or someone told me, or it works well with the kid. But like, you don't have the experience. So like, you're basically now in a seller's market for education, because you don't have the experience to properly judge what they're selling you. Like, you just don't. Like, you can't. Like, how can you accurately judge the value in all these other curriculum yourself personally, without going through them, understanding them in depth, and understanding how children learn, not just your children, but children. There's so much to this. So like, that's what they do in the national curriculum. Like, that's the job of the government with all their funds and, governing bodies and oversight and whatever, and educational secretary, the people that work in that department, but also the people that work in the education of education, like the people that work to learn about education, the psychologists and the teacher trainers. That's the whole system, isn't it? And like you're saying, abandon that and find somebody who's got their own personal private interest in selling their own version, and trust them instead. Find them in the open market somewhere amongst all the sharks. And yeah, the Parent and Teacher Association, yeah, good shout. Find some shark that's got their own idea and he's not going to rip you off, and he's going to give you a great deal on wonderful education. And do that at home, so that those people aren't even held accountable to your child's. Like, if it goes wrong and it wasn't a good buy, then you can get your money back because your child is now a dumbass. But you can't get your money back because do you know what I mean? There's no, if it goes wrong, then that's your children's lives fucked. Oh yeah, but if it goes wrong in the mainstream education, then that's your children's lives fucked. Okay, but they would also be fucked in the same way as everyone else in the mainstream. And I know this sounds fucking weird for me to say this, and people aren't going to like it, everyone's not going to like it, but like, I agree that you should break from the mainstream and be yourself 100%, but having common experience that you can all share, like, and then break from, is also acceptable too. Like, that groundwork of basic education and then the freedom to do what you want afterwards, that's our system. But you don't, like, okay, you were manipulated into being a drone. Yeah, but all of the great artists that I know of the modern era, some of them hated school, don't get me wrong. A lot of people can hate school, but they still went through it together. They didn't become a drone. Like, they kicked against the system and changed things for the future. And, like, change the paradigms and change the norms of society, because they went through it and can perceive what is wrong and therefore call attention to it. So even that's good for society on the whole, and good for like individual people for being themselves. We don't seem to be in this totalitarian state of Big Brother watchers, or watching Big Brother, or Big Brother watching me, or whatever, simply because of the mainstream education. There's more to it, and the bigger side of it, the added bit that she's missing out there, is it's the commercial world that want you to be a drone. It's the market that are selling you the education that want you to be a drone, because those people sell money and buy money and have money and, like, get in the jobs, earn the money and give it back to me, please, for goods and services, and pay me and goods and the money and the economic system. So like, if you're taking your education that's sold on the market, then it's what's best for the market, and the market forces is what's best for your education, really. And that's not a good way to go. So, yeah.
Went all in and spent hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of dollars on a curriculum. But it also helps that I don't use textbooks, because I think that textbooks are extremely dry.
Is education in America free? Have you got Americans in the chat? Dover and Dolly's mom. When you go to school in America, is it free? Like, I know there's loads of stuff that isn't free that should be free, like pens and books and meals and stuff. But like, if you want to go to school, like, isn't it the law that you have to go to school? Like, isn't it in most states just like a free thing? You get to go to the little school and then the big school, and then university's up to you. Isn't school free? Is there anyone in America who can tell me that without me Googling it? Like, so you could have spent all those hundreds of thousands of dollars on other stuff for your kids.
really not helpful in my opinion, especially in the way that my children learn. So
And you
textbooks,
see, they're giving it away for free. So are you to worry about it because it's free? So maybe they're fucking you over. Public education, yeah. Does that mean free? Yeah, Beth. I think it does, doesn't it? Like sometimes you would say, oh, if something's for free, then you're the product. So maybe they're stitching you up. They just want you to spend more money. They're getting you in for free. But it's not that, is it? It's for the good of society. So we've come together to give it away for free for our children's benefit. Like we all agreed that we want it. It's like, so it just seems like madness to say that we should abandon that and instead spend hundreds of thousands of pounds. I can understand private schooling where public education is not good. People might say our standards are not being met, but they will be met by the private sector, so I will pay for it. That's the problem with healthcare. That is the inbuilt problem with the American system. And at the moment in the UK, we have free healthcare for free. You go to the hospital for free, and the taxpayer soaks up the bill. But the government are increasingly trying to say this is not a good system. We want the private system to do it because the government want to make money off the private system, so and not have to spend the money on the healthcare. But America understands this. Britain understands it. As a nation, we all would rather have the best things for free, or I say for free, with a bit of taxing, go in the kitty. We all want street lights. We all want the ambulance to come. We all want to be able to go to school. And we would all really rather think that if I was sending my kids into those situations, that they would get the best possible care and attention. So, it just seems like a no-brainer that the free stuff, because we've organised it together to be good, like she's kind of religious, yeah, and like the modern world is fragmented, and back in the day religious communities would have lived closer and been closer. And I know that I'm saying this like church communities are good with each other and close, but you know what I mean, like literally you get these sort of like hangovers from it in things like Mormon communities and whatever, where they literally live closer and stuff. Like they're all doing things together for the benefit of each other. So like they have a barn, and the barn is expensive, but nobody paid for like the full outlay of the barn. Like no one person has to build their own individual barn, so they all share the barn or whatever. Do you know what I mean? They all put it up together, they all share it. So that's the same deal with this, with the education. We all put it up together, we all share it. And then like she's saying, no, abandon that. I'm going to pay for it all individually. Like if you're really fucking wealthy, you probably could lay on a better standard of anything that publicly we put together and lay on really. Like imagine food, like imagine feeding people like public meals as like a principle. Like you could either just pay people's restaurant bills, or you could publicly provide. And if you publicly provide, like you could probably just take over restaurants and say, look, you're running at a profit, this looks good, we will take it over and run it for the government and give people the food for free. Possibly do that, but you would probably say, oh, in communism all the food is rubbish. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you could probably get your own choice, your own special taste catered to privately, but you could still have free food publicly. So like there's a different payoff, isn't there? Like, and as long as the free food comes up to a certain standard where you're like, listen, I didn't choose this, but it's very nice, it's quite good. Like it's like, like when people go to the food bank and when people go to the grocery shopping, food banks are for free if you're down on your luck and you haven't got as much money. So I get that, right? But the food is basically the same food. You just didn't do all the choosing and picking and working your way through the items list. But you still get the bag of groceries. Like the average bag of groceries for everyone is about the same stuff. It's different stuff. You have a different flavour of chips and I have a different flavour of cereal. But like if you just get an average bag, it's like if you go on holiday or to visit a friend's house and like their food is slightly different from yours, they chose the different flavour of chocolate bar, but you can just eat it, it's fine. Like so it's the same with the education in a way, isn't it? It's like not that it's completely unacceptable rubbish trash, but that it should be of a certain standard that we're all kind of used to and accept. And like being on holiday at a hotel, when you eat the restaurant breakfast in the hotel and it's cornflakes, they're the same sort of cornflakes and you're okay with it. It might not be your exact brand, but you're all eating cornflakes. And then if you want to go that extra mile and have that exact thing, I guess there's a market for that. And also within that market will be sharks who just want your money and don't give a fuck about your children.
Tend to be the most expensive homeschool curriculum, and since we don't use them, we really do save a lot on expenses that way. But
and
really,
there's an option, there's a worry. Usually in the market, the most expensive items are the best. There are differences. See, now she doesn't understand market forces and economics, but there are things like Veblen goods, where the overpricing of them makes them even more desirable. Or that is that Geffen goods, Hang on, what's Veblen? Veblen might be priced in. Let me do Veblen, and then, am I saying it right? Veblen goods. It might be about price elasticity. A good for which demand increases as the price increases. No, yeah, I'm just getting the right thing. Sorry. So this means that, so like, if you say a Ferrari, then that's really good, isn't it? A Ferrari. So that's expensive, isn't it? And if I say to you, yeah, but the new Ferrari is like 200 grand more than the old one, you'd be like, well, it's 200 grand better, isn't it? It's like double better. Like, the more expensive you make it, the more it's seen as really good, and you put a premium on it, even though it might not be like, you know, like caviar and champagne and stuff. Like, you could say to me, I'm doing some nice champagne, but I'm doing it on a special 2-for-1 discount. Come for my 2-for-1 champagne. Get it everywhere, 2-for-1 champagne, and it would be perceived as cheapy champagne. But if I said to you, get my champagne only in exclusive restaurants, only in exclusive bars, and it's double the price of the normal stuff, but it's exclusive, and you can only, that's like the Tesco exclusive, supermarket, Morrison's, Waitrose exclusive brand, and then that's better. You want it. It's the same champagne in the same bottles, but I've just sold it you in 2 ways. One was cheap, half money off, and some people go for that half money off. Some people want the value. Some people think the other, and some goods have managed to break this barrier, and like, you will now just say that Armani shirts, like, this is, Alan falls into this trap. I mean, some goods, I mean, because it's a status symbol, they're not actually worth the value. But some could argue that because they're well-made, high-quality goods, they are worth the value. But where the utility and the value like go up is the price, basically. The demand increases as the price increases, and the perceived value or the perceived quality is based on that price. So that's Veblen goods, right? And Geffen goods are where I'm going to, wait, before I get the definition up, I'm going to say they're like this, but they're different. They're like pieces of art where you might say, well, it's just a piece of wood with some paint on it, but it's worth £1 million, and they're not going to make any more, so it's going to keep going up in value. And like, it doesn't follow the principles of the market in supply and demand. Geffen goods are non-luxury items which generate higher demand when prices rise. Okay, so maybe I've got this wrong. Consume more as the price rises. Hang on, why have I got Geffen goods wrong? Rice, wheat and bread. Okay, no, yeah, okay. So Geffen goods, for example, if there's a shortage on... why am I getting this wrong? Why is Geffen goods in my mind? And it doesn't seem to fit what I think it means. Product consumed as the price rises, violating the law and demand. I understand that it violates the law, and I would understand that they consume more as the price rises. That's why it's in my mind, but because it fits what I was just describing. But due to the decline in available income being spent on existing units of this good, reinforces the decline in demand for the good, but a Geffen good is so strongly an inferior good in the minds of consumers, being more in demand at lower incomes, that this contrary income effect offsets the substitution effect. The net effect of the goods price rises to increase demand for it. It's a paradox, so that's why it doesn't sit nicely in my mind. It's the opposite of an ordinary good. And it's about price elasticity, yeah. So it has a negative slope. So this is the best example of it, yes. So the price of bread makes it so large a drain on the resources of poor families and raises the marginal utility so much they're forced to curtail their consumption of meat. So, okay, meat's non-vegan, but basically what they're saying is, like, if you can only afford to buy 2 loaves of bread or 1 steak, you get a lot more out of the 2 loaves of bread than the 1 steak, yeah? So now they put the price of bread up, and you can only afford half a steak or 2 loaves. I mean, which way am I saying? They put the price of bread, or like 1 loaf of bread or whatever the fuck it is. You're less likely to buy the steak. You're more likely to buy the bread. Even though they put the price of it up, you're going to more likely veer over to the bread. And this is one of the problems with the poverty trap, is that when you've got higher spending range, then you don't fall into these demand problems. But like, as resources become more sparse and more difficult for you, you are less likely to spend, you're more likely to spend your money on more of them. Like, poor people eat more bread and less steak, yeah, because they can't afford the steak, but they can afford the bread. So if you put the price of bread up, they can't afford the steak. Like even more people can't afford steak. Like there's let's say there's a band of people who can't afford steak, so they don't eat steak. Yeah, and then you put the price of bread up, then more people that normally could afford steak, now we can't afford steak because bread's gone up. And we need the bread, that's the main bit, you know, like, or the rice or whatever. So now more people can't afford steak. But you put the price of bread up, not the steak. Yeah, but because more people can't afford steak, now there's more people buying bread. Like you put the price of bread up, but more people are buying bread because instead of buying steak and less bread, they can't afford the steak at all. So now they're buying more bread, like to make up for it. Like they spend differently. So inferior good, a lack of close substitutes. So an inferior good is what we were just describing. The cheaper end of the spectrum, the things that you can more readily afford. They're suggesting the potato. It's a bit weird to talk about it in these terms, isn't it? The potato, because it's quite a good thing, really, a potato. And a lack of close substitutes, so you can't just buy something else instead. Fuck bread. Bread's gone up. I'm going to buy rice instead. You know, or whatever. Like that sounds like that is quite a good close substitute. So it's not a good example, is it, really? But like in most places that have had these problems, there haven't been the close substitutes for you to just switch over to. So you're forced to continue buying the bread even though it's gone up, sort of thing. And it needs to be a major part of your income. I mean, we could talk about this the way we talk about fuel. Fuels are good like this. So I don't know about it being an inferior good, fuel, but there's a lack of close substitutes. If they put fuel prices up, you pay more for your fuel. And then once you're paying more for your fuel, you can't spend so much on your household business about other stuff. I suppose it's not quite exactly the same, is it? Because then it doesn't fuel the increase in price. So fuel's not a good example. Anyway, these are goods that increase in price despite the value not being increased. So like what I'm basically saying is that the reason I'm talking about it is, does this education that she's describing fit into this pattern? Like it could be that you're spending loads of money on what you perceive to be the best ever education, but it's actually a Veblen good. Like it looks great, it's a Ferrari or it's a bottle of champagne, but you're spending loads of extra money and not getting actual good value. And in fact, it might not be getting any better special value at all than certain other goods which might be really good but not dramatically overpriced or come with the status. Or it could be a Geffen good, but could it be sorry, it's Giffen good anyway. Why Giffen and not Geffen? Maybe that's what's my brain. It's been a few years now since I studied this, but I don't think the education could be considered in this way, because the purchase of the education in the way she's doing it is not like this. Oh no, fuel is on here. Look, kerosene. Kerosene's on here. So my analogy was a reasonable one. But it's critiqued as an analogy, as it should be. And that's what science is like. And economics is the social science of the study of scarce resources. So, yeah.
That's how we choose our homeschool curriculum nowadays, is just from experience and specifically knowing what it is that we're looking for.
But she is avoiding the Veblen goods, the most overpriced ones, or she might be walking into the trap of missing out on the best possible goods that are the highest price and quality, because they are the highest quality. So I shouldn't take the piss out of it, really, but we have got the glasses right here, talking about glasses and chat. Oh, your glasses are priceless. I need glasses. Look, I've got my armchair detective glasses. They're appropriate for her as well. Where's the mug thing? Look, I ordered a mug. Where's the mug thing? Go and buy the mug. If I cut that as a separate YouTube video, go and buy the mug. The mug. Get yourself a white mug on white or green. Tell me, I need to know if it needs transparency, if it takes it away itself, or if it's good for you, if it's not good. If it's not good, you have to still have the mug. This is our first print run. It's going to be limited edition. Get the mug, photograph yourself with the mug in some sort of interesting place, and send that in either on Twitter at SuperChuffer or to the mods through Discord, and we'll put it on the show. All right? Deal? Good deal. You bought it before. I know, but this might be a separate YouTube video now. I'm not talking to you in chat. I might have cut. Now, what might happen is that gets cut. Instead of, I might cut homeschool mountains and not mountains, and I might cut homeschool curriculum, how to choose if you're a nutter. And there might be 2 separate videos. So that goes on the end of that other video now. See how I roll? Creating content here. You're part of it. You're here. It's all right. It's fine, Smarty Heart. You say what you like. I'm not critiquing. I'm not giving you the lickings of a dog. It's fine. But like, just like we're in the content creation zone there for a minute. So I stuck that on the end. And that's the... I'm not doing this now. This bit here. This is just... I went to the window because I've got loads of windows. I was going to show you about the Smashing Pumpkins. Not the band, but this Czech priest. So here there's some pumpkins and they've all been smashed. The kids put them out for Halloween. And it's in Czechia. And this guy, the priest, was not having it. He said they were too close to the church. In the park they were, not in the church, but they were in the park. And he went, and nobody knew he did this, but he smashed them all up. Like that. Smashed them all up. The kids came the next day and they were all crying. And then they put some more out. And when he saw at the end of his church day, when he walked home, more of these, he smashed them up again. Smashed them all up. And the kids were crying again. There was a problem. And he eventually admitted to it and said, look, I was trying to protect my church kingdom, or whatever they call it, my parish from... I mean, he said this in Czech language. Czech. It's all here in the thing, but I've read it and I'm telling you instead of reading it. So my facts won't be exactly accurate. But he said it in Czech anyway, so I can't, pronounce it. But he said, basically, I'm sorry, but I was protecting the parish from the bad symbols of Satanism. And I didn't know who did it. For all I knew, they were trying to threaten the church. So I smashed them all up, as a good priest does, to protect his parish and his flock and his congregation. But in the future, I won't, because I didn't realise kids had done it. And if I knew kids had done it, then I wouldn't have smashed them up. I mean, what was he thinking? Who did he think had done this? Not kids. Not kids. A load of adults got together and said, look, Halloween's coming. Let's threaten the church with some satanic imagery. Yeah, we'll show that priest. So the fucking Halloween lanterns in the park. Anyway, Smashing Pumpkins. But it's good, isn't it? Because it's Smashing Pumpkins like the band. But it's not like the band. And I always thought Smashing Pumpkins was a funny name for a band. But now there's actually been some smashed pumpkins. So all these years later, the band name was a good one. So we can have that as a video. Cut. That's a really short one. No, not even any shilling on that. That's just something I shared between us.